everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Dean Kutsia. I'm EPI's Chief Operating Officer. I'm joined by Ms. Paige Fong, who's our Global Head of Marketing, and Paige was the person who set today's webinar up. I'm also joined by Mr. Andrei Lazarov. Andrei is going to be providing us with a detailed breakdown today of the CDFOS, which is our Certified Data Center Facilities Operational Specialist course. Before we jump into that, though, I think just to provide just an indication of how the webinar will be conducted and a little bit of housekeeping, there will be a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if you could, any questions that you've got, please put them in the Q&A section. We often get a lot of questions in the chat box, in the chat room. That can get quite active sometimes, so we may miss some of the questions. So the best place to always put it is in the actual Q&A itself. So before I hand over to Andrei, what I'm going to do is just provide everyone with a quick introduction. Right, so a little bit about EPI. For those of you who may not know about EPI, we've been around for about 38 years now, so closing in on 4 decades. The business was originally founded in the UK, but it relocated to Singapore in 1999, so a very strong presence in Asia. But we also have 12 offices globally with a very large partner network. So we're in over 60 countries. 130 cities, which basically means that we're active in all the large data center markets globally. If there's a data center industry, either one of us or our partners will be on the ground in some capacity. Now, there are 2 key services that EPI focuses on. The one is audits, where we actually conduct facility audits for design and construction, but also operation audits and assessments, which we'll go through in a little bit of detail later, and particularly how that's quite beneficial to the training we provide, which is also the other major service that EPI is obviously very well known for. So we are the largest data center training company in the world, and we do provide training, again, across all those markets that are highlighted earlier. EPI has won numerous awards over the years, but we've also serviced some of the largest customers in the industry. These are names that everyone on the call would recognize now. And we've provided both audit and training services to most of the names that you'd be seeing here. This is the tip of the iceberg, however, given the size of EPI and the market coverage that we enjoy. We've predominantly provided services to most of the major industry players across the world now. So a little bit more about the CDFOS before I hand over to Andrei. It's a 3-day course, but the main purpose of the course is that it teaches people how to run the day-to-day operations of a data center facility. So we're looking at things like floor management and maintenance, document management, and so forth. And what this really does is it allows participants to be able to review their own processes, but also, provides them with the sort of skill sets to be able to execute on the policies and the procedures that they're given and identify where those gaps are. And it's fully aligned with DCOS, which we'll also run through in a little bit of detail in a bit. But before we do that, I think it would be best to hand over to Andrei at this stage. And Andrei's going to run you through a more technical breakdown of what the course content actually includes. So with that, I'll hand over to Andrei.
Welcome. Hello. My name is Andrei Lazarov. I'm an auditor and also a trainer with EPI. Dean's already touched on a little bit about CDFOS and what it covers and who it's for. But before I do this, I just want you to think about the common recurring problems that we are starting to see within our industry. Something that we're also identifying as part of our audit findings, multi-disciplinary teams not fully understanding what their roles are, incomplete or out-of-date documentation, gaps between shifts, information being lost. This is where mistakes start creeping in, and this starts creating high risks for your data center operations team, and also management don't have any visibility on whether those MOPs or SOPs are being followed correctly. Again, this is creating high risk. So I'm super thrilled that you've made the time to join us for this presentation on the CDFOS course itself. Let's have a look at the agenda for CDFOS. As Dean mentioned, it is a 3-day course. On day 1, obviously, we talk about the logistics. Great segue into an introduction to the attendees. Very good networking there as well. And we try and share as much information as possible. Then, obviously, day 1, we go through service level management, safety and crisis management, and then also physical security. Day 2, two hot topics that we talk about: facility maintenance and data center operations. 2 modules across one day. That's on day 2. Day 3, we go through monitoring, reporting, and control, project management, and also environmental sustainability, governance, and compliance. And on the end of day 3, you should be ready to do your exam. And we'll talk about that shortly. So the exam itself, at the end of day 3, you'll have the opportunity to commence the exam. It is closed book. It's 60 questions. It's all multiple choice. You've got 90 minutes to complete the exam. It's 70%. That's the pass mark. And effectively, you've got approximately 90 seconds per question. That's a long time in our industry. The course itself, it is accredited by Exien. So once you complete that exam successfully, you receive an official certificate from Exien. This course is globally recognized as well. You can find more information about this course. I call it knowledge sharing. So you can find out about this course at epi-ap.com/CDFOS. All right, so we'll just do a quick sneak peek on each module. Starting with module 1, let's have a look at the objectives that we would go through. Service level management, that's the core of module 1. Then we look at needs analysis, capability assessments, service portfolios and catalogs, service level agreements, reporting, complaint procedures, customer satisfaction, and also service improvement processes. So that's the SIP. So in the first module, we discuss service level management in some detail. It does set the foundations for success in any data center operations team or organization. And service level management is a vital process for data center service providers and their organizations. It's responsible for agreeing and documenting service level targets and responsibilities within your service level agreements. And this is for every service related activity within your data center. The success of your service level management depends on the quality of service portfolio and also your service catalog. So as a manager of the team, you carry the responsibility of organizing all activities surrounding service level management. You need to keep and make sure you provide a service while also meeting the agreed key performance objectives. And key performance indicators also need to be implemented so we can measure if those objectives are indeed achieved as agreed in contracts which may have service level agreements. This is really important. So breaking down service level management, to break this down, remember that every customer is anybody using the service of the data center. Whether it's an internal customer or an external customer, it doesn't matter. The outcome should be the same. So the service level management process is very dynamic and it changes. And as things change over time, we need to keep on top of our service level management. We describe this in a cycle named Plan, Do, Check, Act. This is embedded in a lot of other ISO standards. You might think about ISO 9001, 14001, 27001, even business continuity management, which sits under 22301. So Plan, Do, Check, Act. And it's all about having continuous improvement frameworks. So in module 1, we get into the detail of Plan, Do, Check, Act. Firstly, with the needs analysis, then we determine the capabilities of the organization, plus all the future aspects of service level agreements, service level delivery, and also monitoring, plus your service level improvement processes. It's imperative you get this right. In module 2, we talk about the most common types of accidents and why they often happen, the roles and responsibilities of appointed safety staff, the importance of O, H, and S or WHS manuals, calibration of measurement and test equipment, proper lockout and tagout procedures, emergency response plan requirement for various potential emergencies, and the importance of permit to works. So, talking about safety rules, remember that a data center is a workplace, so it must be safe at all times. So, safety rules, they are required to ensure all individuals are protected from potential incidents which could impact their health or well-being. So we take a lot of time in discussing safety and operational safety in our data center. It applies across 3 different areas, and you can see those on this slide here. During standard daily operations, then you might have some special works like maintenance or upgrades. And then you must have plans in place for your emergency operations. So think about security threats, fires, natural disasters. At all times, there must be safety rules in place for all types of scenarios. So if something does go wrong, we need to be ready for that emergency in our data center. Some emergencies are more likely to occur than others, so we need to prepare for anything and everything. We need to review our response plans on a regular basis. We always talk about minimum once per year, and additional plans may be required when new emergencies come to life. We also need to ensure the emergencies are taken seriously, especially during training. Some people think that it's only going to happen to other organizations. That's incorrect. So we need to plan, and we need to have policies, procedures, and also technical measures in place. We need to get back to our operational status. And these need to be implemented. They also need to be maintained to reduce and mitigate any potential risks to our organization. We also need to be very flexible, as there is no such thing as a standard emergency. Now, I mentioned permit to works. A permit to work is a procedure. It's a formal written system used to control certain types of works. You might think about hot work permits, cold work permits, energy work permits, confined spaces, ground disturbance permits. We need to control the work within our workplace. We need to use a permit to work process for potential hazardous works. So this slide identifies the stages of a PTW, a permit to work. So CDFOS helps in the understanding of how to reduce the risks within your organization by identifying the risks and then controlling the works. Okay, really important. All right, let's look at module 3. In module 3, we talk about standard operating procedures. These are your SOPs for security. Security risk assessments, security zones, physical inspections and security patrols, delivery of goods at the holding area, entry control of individuals, badges and key management, security monitoring, and also security incident reporting. So if we concentrate on security policies and procedures, the data center security is a set of policies and procedures and practices adopted to avoid any unauthorized access or manipulation of the data center assets and its resources. We spend a lot of time talking about ISO 27001. So we must understand the risk to the organization and how the organization may be exposed to that risk. The data center contains business critical customer data. If it's lost or if there's a breach, if that happens, there may be enormous impacts to any organizations. So CDFOS helps in the process of having a better understanding on how to complete the process of a security risk assessment as per 27005. So this course, we drill down on those policies and procedures. If we concentrate on SOPs and then talk about entry control, for every entry control of an individual, we need to define the minimum level of security for each area within the data center. CDFOS helps define the categories and the zones and what is required. So in this course, we help build up an understanding of a security matrix so you can manage the access in your environments helping you build up a zone definition table. So then you can create a list and the requirements, including the restrictions for various zones. So now we talk about zones, and then we build up that knowledge with zone mapping. So now you can add various groups to specific zones. And once those zones are built up, you have the groups allocated. Then you just need to manage the members within each group. It's that simple. It sounds simple, very difficult to manage if you don't have the foundations for it. So it's designed to be helpful in determining who has access to which areas. All right, day 2, we get into facility maintenance. So we talk about the importance of maintenance, maintenance definitions, maintenance operation procedures. These are your MOPs. Then we talk about service reports, something that's always, I shouldn't say always, but mostly missed within our reviews. Spare management, tools, housekeeping, contamination, water quality, and cable mining. So if we think about facility maintenance, the aim of facility maintenance is to ensure that all of the equipment and physical facilities are fit for purpose on a continuous basis. You cannot have any breakdowns. This includes the physical building and all of its aspects, including the entire data center related equipment as well. All of your critical infrastructure is here. So we need to establish maintenance programs. We also need proper policies and procedures to govern the full life cycle of the data center. So then we look at the entire life cycle of all of the facility equipment as well. We do, in this course, talk in detail about maintenance definitions and these definitions, and then we start talking about preventative, predictive, condition-based maintenance, corrective and reliability-centered maintenance. You might know that as RCM. And maintenance programs, they need to be reviewed and they have to be adjusted to meet the changing business requirements and the technology changes that we have. So very important that we start thinking about the importance of maintenance. So maintenance is important for the data center because it serves a purpose in preventing incidents and to maintain the efficiency of all of your equipment. So now you start adjusting based on time intervals. You should have maintenance contracts in place. We help talk about how we should be managing our vendors and ensure that in the event of something going down, we have some assurance that the service provider is going to come to site as soon as possible and start those repairs. This is to minimize business impact and or damage and reduce it as much as possible. So once your maintenance is completed, you should be reviewing the service reports. Something, as I mentioned, is being missed. So your service reports, they provide key information on the health of the equipment. And once that service is completed, you must review these reports. We go into a lot of detail in CDFOS on the service reports. So this is where you're going to find out if there are any required actions or attention. So you need to establish proper tracking or some form of system which monitors the action items that are going to be performed or completed. And that information within the service reports can help you build up your maintenance schedule as well. So once you start receiving your service reports, which identify issues, you will have a better view of your system health. So in this course, as I mentioned, we go into a lot of detail. We start looking at these service reports, detail like a list of checks and the measurements that are being performed, what the outcome was, any special notes, and what actions might be required. We also spend a lot of time talking about contamination. So obviously, this always starts with the quality of your site selection process. So something to consider, maybe CDCP training as well. When you're looking at your site selection, you've got to consider and manage your contamination. Contamination, we get into a bit of detail on 4 distinct categories. We've got gas, that's corrosive gases that are always around us. Solids being your air particles, that's always present. It's always challenging to prevent dust or solid particles coming into the data center, okay? Especially metallic zinc whiskers. This comes from zinc, obviously. Anything galvanized is going to produce this. You've got liquid as well. We've got pests and rodents. So in CDFOS, we talk in detail on the risks and also the preventative measures that you must take to reduce the risk of downtime due to something so simple as contamination. We finished day 2 talking about data center operations, service management, request, incident, problem, change, release, and configuration management. This is a really large module on day 2. We also speak about capacity management. One of my favorite topics is floor management and also equipment lifecycle management. If we concentrate on staging of your equipment is very important to prevent downtime. It's never a good idea to have anyone rack stacking cable equipment directly into your computer room. No test, no go. That's in my books. It's always about green lights on. So you should implement floor management. And that process of staging flows into floor management. You should complete a physical inspection. Obviously, you're turning on the device for the first time. You're going to be noticing noises or vibrations, maybe testing redundant power supplies, maybe some system configurations. You might be adding it to your asset management list before it goes into the computer room. Maybe checking your electrical systems, voltage, impedance, maybe a full power measurement, maybe some more redundant testing as well. So power measurements, they can be done with a clamping meter or intelligent power rails if they're available. It truly depends on your setup. And in data center operations, we must acknowledge our limitations. Again, it's all about service level management. So you need to know your limitations in your design and also your operations. Power capacity has both electrical and physical limitations. In module 1, we concentrate on capability assessments. So that's the stage where the organization is going to explore if it can actually deliver the service. So think about having to add more power. You need to also consider your transformer sizes and also your ratings. Going from low to high capacity may result in the switch of voltage with your incoming supply into your building. So if you want to increase power, it would normally result in the need for more transformers. This means transformer rooms or yards, they need physical space availability. You're not going to know that if you don't do your capacity planning. We also concentrate on floor management. Something that I'm noticing in audits is not being done as well as it should be. So floor management, CDFOS uses floor management. We start talking about this. We're trying to control everything going inside the computer room. If there is hardware coming into the floor, we need to look at a few bullet points here on the screen. You know, if you think about resource allocation, I'm thinking about updating route diagrams plus all the equipment identifiers. Your pre-installation checks, this is part of your staging report. Then you've got the physical equipment installation, and then you've got post-installation checks. First thing is confirmation from the system owner, you've got green lights on. Then think about cleaning up, finishing off your paperwork, maybe updating the software, and consider the entire life cycle of that device. So then we talk about decommissioning. We also look at the allocation of rack and floor space, allocation of connection ports, power, network, and also having adequate cooling. The floor management process covers the complete life cycle of your ICT equipment in that computer. So it's a very important part of the puzzle in CDFOS. Then we get into monitoring. So in monitoring, we talk about the requirements. We spend time talking about facility monitoring matrix, sensor and alarm point testing and calibration, notification matrix, escalation requirements, reporting, trend analysis, and reviews. So concentrating on monitoring requirements, the main purpose of monitoring is to detect the issue before it turns into a problem. And monitoring systems should have some form of reporting capabilities So the data that's being collected can be analyzed and then aligned with the business requirements and also any service level agreements you may be entered into. You may also have usage-based monitoring, which collects data based on a various number of sources within the data center. You might be using this data for your PUE or maybe your WUE calculations. If you want to be certified in those in the realm of ISO 31134, then you're going to need some form of monitoring and some data collection there. Most monitoring systems are using escalation modules. This allows systems to create script-based scenarios so they can send out alarms. We talk about this in some detail, especially the facilities monitoring matrix. In CDFOS, we spent some time discussing the concept known as this matrix. So when you're deploying a monitoring system, we first need to analyze which systems and parameters you need to monitor based on your service level agreements and how those alarms should be handled. This information should be captured within your monitoring point matrix. So this matrix should provide a complete tabular overview of all the points being monitored. And those monitoring points and the matrix, they should also include the sensors not directly linked to the equipment. Those monitoring points are your honesty monitoring points. The monitoring point matrix should also include detail on each piece of equipment, each sensor with a unique ID code. And again, all of these points, they should be listed within your asset management register. Also, any dependencies on alarms, they should be listed within this matrix. An example would be if you have a mains failure, that will automatically generate a large number of alarms coming from your cooling equipment. Maybe you want to suppress those alarms to avoid confusion so you can concentrate on what the main issue is within your data center. Now, in module 7, we talk about project management. Now, most of us are already project managers without knowing it. We talk about project management, the project organization, the project manager, the initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, closing and evaluation, and any lessons learned. So in project management, this is the application of processes to achieve the project objective. There are different types of methods, different knowledge and skill sets, different levels of expertise. So we need to complete a mission. And projects are separate from your daily operational activities. Apart from meeting the project requirements, it's also important that the project is delivered on time and on budget. So teamwork is central in the success of your project. So we talk about methods, and you may have noticed there are a few different types of methods here. Some of them you may have already been exposed to. So we go through and discuss, as you can see on this slide, how different processes may be applied, but being mindful that these processes all use common language. And most of them can be certifiable on an individual level. And in module 8, we talk about the importance of sustainability and environmental standards, power efficiency indicators, energy saving best practices, water management, and sustainable energy usage. So in module 8, we concentrate a bit on the importance of environmental sustainability. By using natural resources, it will not only reduce consumption of the resource, it will also reduce the operational costs. Adopting sustainable practices not only helps the environment, it does help your organization. Having proven sustainability initiatives will lead to an improvement in your brand image, reduced costs, much happier stakeholders, increased productivity. The organization may have the capability of complying with applicable regulations. So we talk about measurements, baselining, trend analysis, and energy management techniques. We also spend some time speaking about the standards. Within this course, we talk about these standards. They may be applicable potentially to your data center or your organization. So you just need to be very careful evaluating which standard or guideline you want to select. Standards and guidelines are not limited to just one that you might see on this slide. There are plenty of national or maybe local initiatives, depending in which region or country you're in, that could be a good starting point for your organization. I mentioned ISO 30134. That's a framework for the usage for PUE, the RIF, your carbon usage effectiveness, also water usage effectiveness. The list goes on. Also, you've got ISO 14001, right? Planning and supporting functions are there. Awareness and training and documentation. It's all about energy usage and also performance evaluations and improvement programs. So we spent some time talking about this. If you concentrate specifically on PUE as guided by ISO 30134, PUE greatly depends on many factors. But if we look at it in a bit of detail, a new data center will likely have facility systems that are much more energy efficient compared to legacy data centers with older equipment. The climate conditions of the location of the data center are important as well. So remember your site selection. We also look at some formulas which should demonstrate the savings that can be achieved having a lower PUE. Besides saving resources, again, we want to drive the costs down, and that may increase your margins. So we look at PUE classes. They're defined by the green grid. So we look at the detail of level 1, which is basic. We also look at level 2, your intermediate, and then we also look at the down at the PDU level outputs, which is your level 3, down to the rack level. This is the IT equipment input. So these concepts are from the green grid, and it was formalized in ISO 30134. So we spend a bit of time talking about PUE. Which is great segue into talking about service charging models. Implementing a service charging model is recommended to further provide an understanding on the true environmental impact of the data center services. What we're doing is applying potentially a monetary value. This provides much more understanding on the real cost of consuming those resources. It does motivate organizations to be energy efficient, especially in an enterprise environment. So you might be thinking about space-based charging, power charging, pay per use, maybe on a utility model, burstable or overage charging. These are concepts that you could apply in your organization. The last module in day 3 that we talk about is governance and compliance. So we talk about the importance of documentation. So the importance of document management, the 6 sub-processes of document management, asset management, and requirements or asset recording. So with document management, in CDFOS, we talk in detail about the documentation and management of information records. We are looking for standard formats and standardization methods so we can help in this topic. In the documentation management system, you're going to have policies and procedures that may exist, and providing some form of detail on how information is to be produced, stored, and then also controlled. It has to be in a manner to support the operations department and the overall success of the enterprise. Go back to service level management. Think about module 1 again. So we may be storing this information, electronically, maybe it's paper-based. Whichever it is, we need to ensure it's being completed correctly. So we go into a bit of detail on the entire life cycle of documentation, from creation all the way to destruction, and detailing some templates, types of documents, and also documentation categories, plus document registers and how we use them. Again, think about some ISOs that you may already be exposed to. ISO 15489, that's records management. You've got ISO 16175, the list goes on. ISO 27001. So there's a lot of importance that we speak about in regards to document management. Something else that we spend some time on is talking about asset categories. So data center staff can properly record assets in their data center if there is a process in place. So asset management records all assets that are under scope, especially if the organization is housing assets for an external customer. It should make an attempt to include these as well. There should be some policies in place with minimum level of detail to record. Think about the asset owner, obviously a unique identifier, the brand name, type of equipment, serial number, the physical location. So many times you will find ghost devices that are not part of the asset management register. The finance department also has a lot of interest in the asset management register as well. There should be a procedure in place to ensure when it's being moved from its current location to an alternate location, that asset location also needs to be updated according to the asset list. So we spend in CDFOS some time bringing up to speed everyone on asset management. And that's the end of my presentation. That's the 9 modules across 3 days. Dean, I'm going to hand over to you again.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Andre. That was
Pleasure.
that was fantastic. Right. Look, what I wanted to touch on just before we jump into the Q&A with everyone is how you would apply this to either your personal development or even your team's development. Because look, what Andre has run through is quite a technical insight into what the CDFOS actually offers. But I think it's important to look at how you actually apply this, either to yourself personally or to your team overall. Now, what you're looking at here is EPI's IT and data center framework. This is effectively a framework for what's required to run a data center, everything from its design and construction through to its ongoing operation until you eventually mothball it or sell it or upgrade it, depending on whatever the business decides to do long term. But what you'll see at the bottom, and the area that I've highlighted where I say data center infrastructure, that's the design and construction portion. And if you think about how much time and effort goes into designing and constructing a facility compared to what's actually required to operate the data center after it goes live, you find that the industry overall over the years has been quite neglectful of what's required to actually operate a data center. And this introduces quite a lot of risk for most companies. It's something that a lot of them are starting to realize though, and it's one of the reasons why they're investing so heavily in upskilling a lot of the people in the industry, or also trying to attract people from outside the industry. So it's important to understand that effectively we've outstripped the labor pool. There's far more jobs available than there are people in the industry with experience, and we're not having to hire people from outside the industry, or we're having to upskill those in the industry to make them a lot more efficient. And if you look at it from a data center's perspective, particularly with regards to this framework, what you're seeing here are policies and procedures. This is what effectively keeps the lights on every day. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is that a lot of companies and organizations, they rely on ISO standards, all sorts of ISO standards. Andre touched on this to quite a large extent when he ran you through things. And the reason for that is we're looking for policies and procedures and processes to make sure that we manage the data center effectively every day. The DCOS standard, which is a standard that EPI provides audits and certifications for, basically comprises of a standard that is inclusive or is fully aligned with a lot of these ISO standards. And the reason why this is important for you, either your personal capacity or for your team that you might be looking to train, is that it's multidisciplined. So as you saw with Andre's presentation, when he was taking you through the various modules, he was covering different aspects of the data center, particularly from an operational perspective. So think of service level management, for example, or monitoring, reporting, and control. All of these different elements within a data center often require specialists. And if data centers are getting bigger, and we're having to build them with far more power capacity for AI workloads and hyperscale workloads. And you've got all sorts of different service level requirements from enterprise clients and hyperscale clients and AI clients and banks and government and universities. What this does, it creates a lot of complexity in the data center environment. So what you're finding is that you need specialists, but you need specialists who understand the data center ecosystem, and not just from a design construction perspective, but also from an operations perspective. So it's important that your specialists in an organization talk the same language. Your security specialist doesn't need to be a full-blown data center operations specialist, but he needs to understand the basics. Likewise, you guys who are responsible for maintaining facilities day to day, the equipment on the floor, they should understand monitoring, reporting, and control. They don't need to be the expert, but they need to understand what their colleagues are responsible for, or perhaps what external contractors are responsible for. All of this just makes them a lot more efficient in their day-to-day job, and it gives them confidence to do their day-to-day job too. At the same time, too, for someone who's carrying this certification personally, it means it provides an employer with confidence that you actually understand the data center's operations ecosystem far more effectively. So we're not going to teach someone, how to be a diesel mechanic, but we're going to teach a diesel mechanic why monitoring is important, for example, because all of this stuff has an impact on the business. So there's a lot of commercial benefits with the training. All our training at EPI, our design training, our compliance training, is all aligned with best practice standards. The operations training is very well aligned with the various ISO standards and DCOS by default, but also things like ITIL. So again, it's about best practices. And the important thing is that staff end up talking the same language. So if you're familiar with what your colleagues might be doing, or you understand what they're required to do day to day, they're all talking the same language and everyone's on the same page. The training's also very practical, which means it's a great way to upskill new entrants into the industry. And the operations space, more than any other in the industry right now, is where we're seeing the biggest staff shortages. There just are not enough people. So we're having to pull people from outside the industry. We've got to skill them up quickly. And the best way to do that is to provide them with best practice standards training. And making sure that they're speaking the same language as the rest of your team. The other thing that's important is, because staff churn can be quite high, if you've got a consistent training framework for all the people that join your business, if you lose people, it's easy to upskill new people to get them to the same level as your current team. And again, they're all talking the same language. And all this does is just gradually start to reduce risk across your entire operations team, which is what everyone's chasing. At the same time, too, there are cost savings. Obviously, operations staff are cost more and more because there's a shortage, but you want your people to be as efficient as possible, and that leads to improved performance. Because if you be able to get more out of the people you have, it doesn't just improve in performance. It means that you're not having to overinvest in resources to try and plug gaps. And that actually means a competitive advantage. So when it comes to either you individually, if you've got this certification and someone out there doesn't, it opens up employment opportunities for you. But if you are managing a large team, or you're looking to train a team of people, it actually provides your organization with a competitive advantage, because your people are all trained to a certain level. They speak the same language, and that starts to translate with the quality of services you're providing, either to external customers or internal stakeholders. So a little bit more about the overall data center training framework. To touch on the design build courses, many of you on the call would likely already have some of these certifications. The CDCP is our most common or well-known or most popular course, I should say. It's a 2-day design build course that really focuses on the data center as a whole, so how it's designed and constructed. The CDCS it builds on the foundation. That's the CDCP. It's a 3-day course where you look to specify equipment in a little bit more detail. And then the CDCE focuses more on the entire project life cycle of the data center. The C and CDP is a specialized cable networking design professional course. Obviously, with the amount of interconnection in the data center these days, quite a valuable course and quite popular too. Now, one of the questions we often get before I jump into the maintenance courses is, are any of these a prerequisite for operations courses? And the answer is no. You don't have to have a CDCP to attend a CDFOS or a CDFOM or CDSS course at all. There's no requirement for it. However, it does help because it's important to understand why we build data centers the way we build them. And if you consider how important the overall design of a facility is to the way that we have to operate that data center, it's a very symbiotic course. They play well off each other. So the knowledge that you gain from the CDCP and the CDCS for more advanced staff is invaluable, even for those in operations roles. However, again, it's not a prerequisite. So today we were discussing the CDFOS, which focuses more towards people who are on the floor and on the tools. The CDFOM is a course that's aimed more at the operations manager, so who's responsible for policies and procedures. That's also a 3-day course. So who's the person managing the people on the floor? And then the other course, which is an operations course, is the environmental sustainability specialist. While we do touch on and cover environmental sustainability in the CDFOS and the CDFOM, the ESS is quite an intense 2-day course. And the reason it's quite valuable to many of our clients is that they've got internal reporting requirements, and it's always good to have someone on staff who really understands the most efficient way to operate a data center, how to deal with waste management, and particularly the reporting requirements around it. So very handy for that reason. We also offer 2 risk courses. One's the Certified Data Center Risk Professional. That's focused more at people who need to develop internal business cases. It might be expanding a particular facility or adding additional equipment or so forth. The Migration Specialist is really aimed at those companies or individuals that are having to assist customers with relocating infrastructure. Very valuable for operations teams too, because you're often helping your customers relocate infrastructure into your facility, either from their own data center or it's new equipment that's arrived. So very handy if you're providing services to them. And then lastly, we also provide standards and compliance training. The CDCP is a prerequisite for the TIA 942 design consultant certification we offer, which is aimed at training particularly around or specifically for the TIA 942. And then again, it gradually escalates. So once you've passed that, we've got the internal auditor, which is a little more advanced than the DC. And then you've got the lead auditor, which is if you wanted to conduct external lead audits according to the TIA 942 standard. So I'll touch on accreditation briefly. Andre spoke about Exxon. Exxon's who we work with, and they provide us with the third-party certification and exams. So Exxon, and the reason why we work with them is that they're globally accredited and they're a specialized examination body, but they're completely independent from EPI. So when you get your certification from EPI, and this is one of the reasons why the EPI certifications are so highly valued, it's because the entire process has been completely impartial. We're not printing a certificate in the kitchen. You've actually needed to understand the material, and be able to pass an exam that's proctored by a remote party. So very important, and it means that the investment in the certification is valuable. At the same time, Exxon also operates under an ISO accreditation scheme, which was important for us, but they do focus on the ICT and data center industry. So they're working with some of the largest vendors worldwide, which is again one of the reasons why the certification for us is so highly recognized and valuable. And they've certified over 2 million people now too. So there's a hell of a lot of people out there that they've provided certification for. The courses are delivered in a few formats, but generally it comes with training. We provide you with an ebook and then the exam voucher, which is how you would take your exam with Exxon. We deliver the courses also in multiple languages. So you can actually add Bahasa to this now, which we've added recently, and also Thai. we're delivering in. And we're continuing to expand the languages that we deliver the courses in. Now, there are three forms of delivery. There's ILT, which is instructor-led training. That would be classroom-based training. You would go to a classroom somewhere, an instructor will pitch up and he'll take you through the training over the course of 2 to 3 days, depending on which course you've attended. We also run virtual instructor-led training courses. These are very popular. So for those of you who may struggle to get to a class, we run virtual classes, which is live instruction, and it would be one of our trainers like Andre, for example. He would actually run you through the course material online, and then after the course is completed, you can attempt the exam. And then lastly, we've got TOD, which is training on demand. What that is access to the EPI Academy, where you'll have 12 months access to effectively videos that you can consume at your own speed. So you can go through the content multiple times, and it means you can go through that content at your own pace. So if you're struggling to get away from work for 2 to 3 days, this is very typical for operations teams. It's hard to get people off the floor. You can't afford potential downtime, or you just can't get your roster managed to get people away. The TOD is a fantastic option for the operations training in particular. So highly recommended for those who are really struggling to get their people to attend a course because you can't get them off site for a few days to attend some training. So why would you choose EPI? Look, we were the first, but we're also the largest. As I said earlier, we're the largest data center training provider in the world, delivering our programs globally across a massive partner network and multiple offices. But we're also a data center expert. So we actually bring a lot of real world and practical knowledge to the courses. And the reason for that is because Andre, for example, is not just a trainer. Andre is also an auditor. So Andre is conducting audits of all the largest data centers that are looking for either TIA or operational certifications. So he's not just providing training, he's actually at the coalface. He's seeing what facilities are being constructed. He's getting to see how other companies are operating their data centers. So what that means is when he delivers the training or you have questions for him, he's actually got real world practical experience today. It's not someone who hasn't been in the industry for 5, 6, 7 years and is semi-retired into a training gig. All of our guys are highly active when it comes to audit. So they're seeing everything that's going on in the industry at the moment too. We're also vendor neutral. This is very important. A lot of the training that is offered out there tends to skew towards specific vendor product. Which is quite dangerous because what you should be looking at is a best practices framework rather than looking at particular product sets or a particular way of doing something. And the accreditation also, as I said earlier, is independent. That's incredibly important. Again, we're not printing certificates in the kitchen. It's coming from an impartial third party like Exxon. The development methodology, look, we use a proven framework. It's a design framework, which means that we're very well aligned with best practices when it comes to educational delivery. International standards, as I mentioned earlier, and so did Andre. A lot of our training is based around best practice. And that's again, it's important because best practice makes sure that you're talking the same language as your colleagues, your perhaps whoever you're reporting into, external suppliers and consultants. Crucial. And one of the reasons why our training has been as successful as it is and so widely adopted. And also one of the reasons why you'll often find when it comes to RFPs or customers having to submit proposals, often customers want to see a certain number of EPI certified staff are part of the teams that would either be delivering services or design consultancy, testing and commissioning, and so forth. And lastly, a track record. It's not 37 years anymore. It's now 38 years we've been in business, so been around for quite a long time. So look, with that, I'll stop sharing the screen there. I think we'll jump straight into the questions. So look, we've set an hour for it, but we did get a lot of questions, so we're happy to go over and get stuck in. Before we jump into those questions, I'll answer some. Look, Andre will also answer some. We will be sending the presentation out to everyone who attended today. We'll also make the video available to you too. So if you wanted to go through it again or you wanted to share it with any of your colleagues or anyone in the industry, look, you're more than welcome to. It'll be available on the EPI website. So with that, let's jump into the questions. I'll start straight off. So the first one was from Syed. He wanted to know what's the cost of the CDFOS. Look, with the CDFOS, all of EPI's courses are priced based on local markets and purchasing power. So what we always recommend is if you're looking for a quote, please reach out to us and we'll provide you with a quote. And then based on your location, that ultimately determines the price of the course. We do publish the pricing on our website for the TOD. However, when it comes to ILT or VILT, which is classroom-based delivery, either virtually or in classroom, you do need to get a quotation from one of our salespeople or one of our partners. So please reach out to them. The next question was from Ahmed. He wanted to know, are there any discounts on the CDFOS for webinar attendees? Yep, again, reach out to your local salesperson. If you're not too sure in the office, please just reach out to either one of us who's on the call here. You can pop us an email or you can send an inquiry through our website. We're normally very responsive. Within 24 hours, you'll hear back from us. We'll connect you with a relevant salesperson or partner, wherever you may be based, and they'll be able to provide you with a quote. Just mention that you attended the webinar. Another question from Syed Atif asked, can we get the ebook without enrollment? No, we only provide the ebook with clients who attend the actual courses. So when you attend the course, it gives you access to the training, depending on the format that you wanted to attend. We provide you with the ebook and the exam voucher at that stage. The only time we provide ebooks would be if you're looking to recertify. We would provide you with an ebook and then just the ebook and then an exam voucher, and then you wouldn't need to retake the whole course. So from Shi Wen, she asked, how is the version of CDCP R25 relating to CDFOS R22? Is there any significant relation needed or concern here? No, not at all. So look, we update the content frequently for all our courses. And the CDCP went through a recent update because the TI 942C standard was updated in 2024. We've also seen a lot of shifts, particularly in design for cooling and power with AI workloads and hyperscale requirements just really driving it through the roof. So we've updated that material. There's no requirement for a CDCP to attend a CDFOS. However, there are benefits as well, as I said earlier, in attending it. But don't think that if it's a slightly newer version on one course, that an older course is less relevant. That's not the case at all. We make sure that our courses are always very, very relevant. They're in constant states of development. So if there hasn't been a major update, it's mostly because there hasn't been any major adjustments to best practice standards recently, which hasn't necessitated an adjustment to the course material. But it will be getting updated. And look, we anticipate that the CDFOS is going to be updated early in 2026. Is when the next updates will come along. And that's again being driven predominantly by AI workloads and hyperscale requirements, which is pushing everything. Sanoj asked, can we take CDFOS without having CDCP? Yep. And he also asked about price. Again, look, just reach out for a quote, and it's also published on our website. Habibur asked, I noticed EPI website that the CDFOS course listed for CDFOS 22 is the R25 revision. No, it's going to be an R26 revision. There won't be an R25 revision this year from the looks of it. Again, there's been no immediate pressure to get that done. We might get it done a little bit sooner, but it likely pushes off into the new year. Again, there's no it shouldn't slow you down from taking the CDFOS R22 because there aren't that many major revisions actually coming at the moment. A major revision would be when you see major standards changes. So when we saw like with the TI 942C standard change, that was a significant change. There haven't been significant changes like that, particularly from an operations perspective, that have flown through to best practice standards that we're using to train from. From Rami, wanted to know, hasn't seen full information concerning course price. And suppose if you fail exam, what happens? You're provided with an exam voucher. If you fail the course, you need to purchase an exam voucher to retake it. So it is something that you want to make sure you understand the material. Our trainers are available to you after you've attended a course if you've got any questions, but you need to prepare for it just like you would any other exam. That would be important. Next one was, what's the difference between CDCP and CDFOS, which is valuable for the data center? This came from Renganathan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The CDCP focuses mostly on design build. The CDFOS focuses mostly on operations. They are both important. They are both important, but they serve different functions. The CDCP is going to help you understand why we built a data center the way we do. But the CDFOS is going to help you understand how we operate the data center. Very different functions, but both beneficial courses to people in this industry, which is why we always recommend to people, and it's not a sales tactic, do your CDCP and do the operations courses because they will both offer value, but they cover very different subject matters. So they're both going to be valuable to you personally and to your team overall, but don't think you have to choose one or the other. They serve different functions. If you are in an operational role, we're going to recommend operational courses. It's not to say you won't benefit from the CDCP, you will, but those operations courses are aimed at people who are working in operations environments day to day, because your day-to-day job is execution on policies and procedures and work instructions that you need to execute on. And what this is going to do is make you more efficient on your day-to-day execution of your job, rather than just providing you with insight on how a data center is built and why it's built a certain way. So that's the real value with these courses, and why particularly we find large facilities management companies invest so much in them when they're bringing people into their organization too. We got another question here from Rajan Dran. I've about 2 years experience as a site engineer handling plumbing, piping, and construction. After completing the CDFOS certification, which types of roles would you be most suitable for? Anyone with a trade is going to be suitable for various types of roles, particularly in operations. HVAC systems and cooling are obviously crucial. We always think in terms of electrical and mechanical systems predominantly, right? So
I'd have
these
to say just there, great question. Data center engineering. That's your stepping stone right there. Awesome
for
opportunities out there.
site engineer, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
no, correct. Right, the next one was from Habibur. Please share CDCS upcoming batch. Yes, we're running a webinar on the CDCS on the 1st of October. So bookmark that. It's the details on our website, and also reach out to us. We'd love to have you there for that too. Syed Zain asked, is there any book of CDFOS? Yes, it comes with a workbook for anyone who proceeds with the course. John McNamara asked, thanks for the webinar. He's got a question about Exxon. Is it recognized worldwide? Does the qualification have to be updated? Does it have an expiration date? Do you need continuous training? Those are great questions, John. So it is recognized worldwide. Exxon is, look, obviously a highly reputable organization when it comes to data center certification and IT certification in general. I mean, they provide certification for companies like Microsoft and HP too. So it's not just for us. In fact, HP and Microsoft are partners of EPI, who also resell our training. Does the qualification have to be updated? Our certifications are valid for 3 years, after which you need to recertify. But recertifying doesn't require you to attend the course again. We just send you updated workbooks and an updated exam voucher. So if there's been any updates to the course material, you go through it again and you recertify, and you do that every 3 years. There's no need for continuous training, but there are other courses that we do offer to help you expand on your knowledge base. So if you complete a CDFOS, for example, perhaps in 2-3 years' time, you look at doing the CDFOS or CDFOM, sorry, so the Facilities Manager course, the Environmental Sustainability course, perhaps even the Migration Specialist course, depending on what your day-to-day job role is. So I hope that answered your question. And so the next question was, is Skill Future funding an option for the courses? Yes, if you're in Singapore, it is. What is the role of the operations team during the design stage? I believe early involvement would resolve many of the issues. That's from Moez. Very much so. That's something you need to get into the heads of, particularly your project managers and your engineering teams. Often operations is left to the end rather than the beginning, and it's a common problem in the industry. Habir Rahman wanted to know how to identify a gap analysis in a data center. Look, EPI does that. We provide audits. So these will be audits that are conducted as a gap analysis for your operations overall to see where you may be running into particular issues. And we use the DCOS standard as a guideline for that. So Yaha Abraman wants to know about futureship scholarship. Why will one get denied when applied? The scholarship program is fully outlined when you go through the application process. It's aimed at people who are not in the industry or are currently unemployed. So look, please apply through it, and we'll generally provide you with a reason as to why you might be denied if you are. We have awarded a hell of a lot of scholarships, though. It's close to $2 million in scholarships. So It has been a successful program. The next one was from Elvis. What's the cost of CDFOS training? Please have a look at the website. To what extent can sustainability initiatives be managed or introduced during the operations phase of a data center? Andre, that's for you. So from Mose, to what extent can sustainability initiatives be managed or introduced during the operations phase of a data center if they were not addressed in the original design?
Well, this becomes a bit of an operational challenge. So if you are not monitoring correctly, you're getting the incorrect data, which means you can't do your trend analysis, which means you can't tweak your systems. So it's always going to go back to, if you can't capture that in your design phase, and now as the operational team, you have to deal with that, and you want to start saving money. And if you save money, who gets a bonus, right? So to be able to be operating your data center as efficiently as possible, the first thing I'd be looking at is your monitoring points, calibrating those, having the right measurements, training the data, and then start tweaking your systems. And you must be very mindful of the standards that you're operating under as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, no, that was great. Thanks. Next question. Let me just get into the Q&A again. Sec. Let's answer two more. We'll do one more so we've got time for the lucky draw. Another one from John. Is the course all theory-based? Does it cover any practical sessions? I see you answered that already, Andre. Okay, look, we've gotten through quite a bit here. I think what we'll do, we'll answer those that we haven't been able to answer over email. So again, look, thank you to everyone. I think before we wrap up, though, we generally run a lucky draw where we award one person who's attended the CDFOS TOD. Hang on, let me just check. Paige ran the thing, and it's, gosh, I hope I get this name right. It's Nail Geberwald. A bit of a mouthful for me. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Don't feel too bad. People butcher my surname all the time. I know how that feels. But congratulations, you've won a CDFOS TOD. If you already have the CDFOS, we can talk to you about transferring it to someone else, but we'll be in touch with you. So congratulations on that.
Congratulations.
With that, look, thank you again to everyone who joined us today. It's really great to see such a large attendance for it. If you've got any questions, you please feel free to reach out to us. Anyone on the call here is happy to help. Our salespeople, our partners, we're there to provide you with what information we can to help you understand this course as best as possible. I hope you all got a lot of value. Thank you, Andre, for presenting to everyone today. And thanks to everyone who pitched up for this. I hope you got some value from it. Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.